Hello and welcome to the Overwhelm is Optional podcast. This podcast is for you if you value not burning out. You're sick of it. You're sick of the stress and the exhaustion. You want your life back. Hello, welcome to this week's episode of the Overwhelm is Optional podcast. So this week, stop trying to be so perfect. Seriously, just give it up. Now, this is difficult, isn't it? I find this really hard. I don't even think I'm trying to be perfect. And then I think, why? Why am I trying so hard? I'm still trying too hard. How can I try less hard but still do something really well? And that's the difficult thing, isn't it? Because as somebody who likes things done really well, doesn't want to disappoint anyone, refuses to let people down. If I say I'm going to do something, then I want to do it and I want to do it really well. In fact, I want to do it better than expected. It's really hard. And yet we can't be perfect. And it's really boring and irritating anyway. It's exhausting for us. And actually for those around us, it's really unhelpful because when we try and be perfect, when we don't accept our own basic humanity, that stuff goes wrong, that despite our best intentions, things don't work out the way we want them to, that we can't control everything, we can't be perfect, it actually makes us harder to be around because we're really hard on ourselves, which means we tend to get snappy, but we also are judgmental of others. So it's really interesting, that mirror thing. So I notice that when I'm trying really hard to do something well, it's because I'm looking at somebody else and thinking, well, they let me down and they didn't do it very well. I don't want to be like them. And it's that fear for me. I don't know if this resonates with you, but it's that fear of being like somebody who has hurt me. I don't want to be like the person who's hurt me. I want to be better than them because I don't want to hurt other people. But that's not about perfectionism, because the person who let me down, it's not because they weren't trying to be perfect. It was nothing to do with that. It was because their intention was just not good enough. They didn't really care. And that's not because necessarily they were nasty. It's because they just didn't think about it. It wasn't on their radar. So often I think people hurt us by accident. They don't intend to let us down, but they just don't do a very good job because that's just how they are. And that's how they breeze through life. And yeah, I don't want to be like them either. I don't want to be somebody who accidentally hurts people, breezing through life and never really quite doing a good job because I don't think it matters. But that's not perfectionism. That's because that person has different values. And I think this is really important. So for me, what I find helpful is saying, okay, so what are my values? What's really important to me? And one of my values is integrity, doing what I say I'm going to do. Which means I have to be more careful about what I agree to do, because if I can't do it well, I'd rather not do it at all, which means I need to say no. So for me, this is about learning to say no, learning to look after myself, only really saying yes to things that energize me and things that excite me and things that I can do really well. So there are always opportunities. There are endless opportunities to help people, to work with people, to go places, to experience things, to meet people. There are endless opportunities and you can't do it all. It's not possible. There will always be more things to do and more opportunities than you can do. And also you don't need them all. What you need to do is pick the best ones for you at the right time. And that takes skill, doesn't it? And for me, it's taken me, half my life to learn that actually, when I say yes to everything, I'm actually saying no to a lot of things that are important to me that I hadn't identified, and then getting caught up in why do I feel like this? Why do I feel so tired? And why am I being snappy and grumpy? And it's because I've said yes too much. So I'm much, much better now at saying no. And that's been really, really difficult in a business, because in a business, when you first start out, you just say yes to everything, right? Because you're learning. And now I'm fortunate, very fortunate, as my business grows, to be able to say no a lot. In fact, I'm saying no a lot more than I'm saying yes. And that's really good, because what it enables me to do is to work within my zone of genius and to work at a really high level. So for example, if somebody contacts me, or when people contact me and say, how can they work with me? I I don't say, well, you can pay this, this and this, because that's not for sale. My time is and my knowledge and expertise is very valuable, and it's not for everyone. So for me, it's about, are we a fit? Is this person somebody that I want to invest my time in, and my energy and my passion and compassion, or not? Because when you start out working on your own, you're going to say yes to everyone, and then learn that actually it doesn't work for everything that you do. Not everything's going to work. So, for example, when I started the podcast, I didn't know what was going to happen. And here I am, 4,000 downloads later. Thank you so much for being here, for listening, for sharing. It means so much. I can't tell you how excited I am. I find it amazing. In fact, the number doesn't really make any sense to me. I'm just like, oh, woohoo, celebrate. But when I started, it was an experiment. And then but of all of the things I've done, it's really successful because it's something that works for me. But there's lots of other things I've tried and started and failed at. I don't know if I've let them go because they're not. And my book, which I really think is in my zone of genius, I did write it, a draft copy, and that was over a year ago, and it's still not edited. Why? Because I can't do everything at once. It's not possible. And there are more important things that I needed to get done and wanted to get done than the book. So the book will come later, and I'm okay with that, completely okay with that, because I'm committed to it, but I'm not going to do it in a way that is pressured for me, and I'm not going to do it badly. That doesn't mean it will be perfect, but I will do it at the right time for me. So I do think and I don't know if this is perfectionism, because I never think of myself as a perfectionist. I always think of myself as somebody who's integral and has high standards. But I notice that within that, there is a tendency to overwork and overgive if I'm not careful, in order to do things really well. So for me, it's this constant thing of, how do I maintain high standards, because quality matters to me, in a way that works for me. And that, I really do think that comes down to boundaries. Say no a lot, really politely. Now, how do you say no? Well, that's really difficult, isn't it? That takes practice. So a really good thing to do is to buy some time, because what we tend to do is we react rather than respond, particularly when we're in a state of severe overwhelm, because every time somebody speaks to us, it's like swatting another fly away, isn't it? It's like, oh no, they want this. And you just say yes, because then people go away, because you don't want to upset people and you don't want it to look like you're not coping. So you're not going to shout, no, can't you see how stressed I am? Although actually you probably are shouting that at people like your partner or people close to you, because we expect the people close to us to see the stress and understand, and we overgive to the people who we don't want to know us that well. Does this ring a bell? So you're overgiving. It's really typical, isn't it? Where we overgive at work and come home and we undergive. We're just the people we love the most, and our dogs and all our animals get the worst of us, and that's really sad, because that's not what we intend. We're just doing our best and we're struggling. So yeah, how do you say no to people? Well, just to start with, slow it down. So notice your tendency to react and say okay, and then see if you can just pause. And you might just pause and then say okay, but the pause will help, because you will realise that you're saying yes again, so you notice it, whereas often we don't notice until we're really, really stressed that it's because we've said yes too much. And we don't think we have choice, and yet other people around us are saying no, which is why people are coming to us, because we always say yes. So if you're the go-to person to get stuff done, that's partly because you don't say no. So if you want less on your plate, you're going to have to start pausing. And then actually, I think one of the absolute best things you can do, so start pausing, start noticing, notice the damage you're doing by saying yes all the time. And then I would just sit down and do the 20 things. I don't know if I think I've mentioned the 20 things. So the 20 things is one of the techniques I work with where you just sit down, set a timer for 10 minutes, and literally 20 ways to whatever the issue is. So in this case, it would be 20 ways of saying no. And you just do it. You do it for like 5 or 10 minutes every day for 5 days. And at the end of it, you'll have 100 hilarious ways of saying no, like, I'm just going off to buy an ice cream, or, you know, you can make up silly ones and have fun. The whole point is not to overanalyze it. It's just to really quickly 20 ways of saying no. And then you just pick the ones that you want to try, which will probably only be like 2 or 3. And then you practice, and it's a practice. It really is a practice. And it is literally about standing your ground. So a really good thing to do is to secretly do the 1 minute mark while you do it. So you can send your attention to your feet. If you know somebody's about to walk up to you and ask you to do something, and you want to buy some time, or you want to say no, moving your attention down to your feet and your belly and really standing your ground, quite literally, not fiercely, just gently. So, I'll have to think about that. Can I get back to you? Well, I've got this, and this to do, so I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get to that. Whatever it is, whatever you're going to say. Actually, I was thinking that so-and-so would love to do that, because very often as well, other people want to do things and we think we're being helpful, but they really want to go. So I think, well, not suggesting somebody who's got a lot on their plate and you're offloading, but, you know, sometimes there's somebody who'd quite like a go at something that you're doing and you don't know that. So you could use that one very carefully, obviously, selectively. Maybe ask them first. But yeah, saying no can really, really help with this need to do everything and do everything right and do everything perfectly and not let anyone down, and then end up really stressed and overwhelmed. So yeah, I just thought a quick episode on stop trying to be so perfect might be a really nice one to lift your week, because the truth is, if you did nothing today, you would still be lovable, you would still be loved, nothing terrible would happen, everything would be okay. So stop trying so hard to be perfect, because you don't need to, and it doesn't make you happy, I don't think. If it makes you happy, well, you wouldn't be listening to this podcast episode, I don't think. Anyway, I hope that has made you think, given you pause for think. I'd love to know what your 20 ways to say no are. I'd be really, really interested, and which one's your favourite. Yeah, do let me know. Anyway, have a lovely week. To find out more about my tiny, huge, life-changing practices, please visit www.heidimark.co.uk.